Hello. Today I'm going to tie for you what I'm calling a Runic Nymph. Pheasant tail and hare's ear nymphs catch plenty of fish, um, natural materials and kind of old school, but what fun would that be? So I'm still fooling around with my version of lively legs cut on a cricket out of thin skin, and we're tying today's fly on a size 16 lip splitter hook from lively legs. So I'm going to use CDL for the tail. It's kind of my go-to. And I'm going to use a Goose Biot for an abdomen. This is a small fly and I want a segmented abdomen. Um, I have some of this old thin skin. You can see I paid $1.80 for it. And my wife and I kind of got good at our Cricut tool. I made a design and I cut these little guys out, peeled away the excess, and that's what I have left. You'll see how I use it in a little bit. We're going to use a little rabbit dubbing underneath the thorax and hold it all together with A-dot black uni thread. So we've got the hook and the vise. We'll get the thread started. We can go all the way to the eye here. You'll see why. We're not really going to whip finish at the eye on this one. And it's kind of one of the things. I've done a version of a fly like this before with the same thin skin legs I cut out. They were a little bigger, and I think I solved one of the problems I had when I was doing that larger fly. And I'll show you that. And it has to do with how you finish. So I'm going to take the thread all the way back to the end of the shank, just above the bend. And we're going to add a little bundle of those Coq de Leon fibers for the tail. And we shorten it up just a little bit. And let's wrap forward and bind them down. And trim off the excess. So here I'm coming up to just behind the eye. I'm going to put some wraps here. I'm going to build this up as if this were the head and I was finishing the fly right there. For two reasons. We want to make sure we cover up that gap where the hook eye is bent back to the shank. Sometimes there's a little gap or sharp edge there. So I'll come back to the middle, start my Goose Biot. Now I want this to be a smooth body, segmented. So I have the smooth edge up where the notch, as some people use to keep track. I'm going to throw one wrap underneath those tail feathers to kind of spread them out, prop them up. And then when I wind these biots, I like to put a little head cement on the shank. So here we have a little drop of Sally Hansen's. And we'll get a hold of our biot. And those are the smallest hackle pliers I have. I don't want to strain this thing and break the biot, although these biots are they're pretty tough. Make sure I get that first wrap in place right up against the tail and start to do the form that segmentation. Get that nice look that I'm going for here. Segments are getting a little wider as I work forward. We'll stop here and throw a couple of wraps over here. There I pull tight so I can take the hackle pliers off, and we'll get another wrap or two just to hold things in place while we trim off the excess. So I'm liking that look on small flies. I know some nymphs have gills down the side and they look a little fuzzy. I'm not sure. I think this is it catches the fish's attention as well, and not all nymphs are fuzzy like that with gills. Some are smooth or at least look segmented. So what looks good to me sometimes adds a little confidence. So here we're tying that tag end or that tip end of the like I said, I'm calling them lively legs. I hope those guys don't get offended, but it's not exactly their pattern. It's a shape that I kind of came up with. Approximates a combination of things out there. So it's going in upside down, and I wrap forward all the way to just behind the eye. And you'll see I flip that over across the top when I'm done. So it'll form the wing case and the legs all in one shot. Again, the idea here is to be able to tie these little, real small. So I come up to what would be right behind the eye, and I want to build kind of a pretty good bulb of rabbit fur there. I'm going to go to the back of that, and you can see my thread's bare now, but I'm taking it across the top, and I'm going to park it right where I want to flip that shell back over, and that kind of lines up between the front two pair of legs. So I get a wrap or two there, and the trick is not to pull too tight. And then this is the little tip that I have, and I think it solves the problem. On bigger flies, it didn't matter as much, but on these smaller ones and pulling the shell over, if you use tight wraps or you whip finish and pull it tight, it kind of curls everything around and distorts it. There is a little distortion here, but I think it's no more than you'd see on a real bug. So I do about 4 wraps with super glue. I'm going to hold it there for a couple of seconds. Let that super glue kind of set up a little bit. And that's it. So that should hold the thread in place, but there is another step. I'm going to come back and put a drop of that Sally Hansen's or head cement on the top and eventually on those thread wraps just behind the eye. I don't think I captured that on video, but I do put a little drop of head cement just behind the eye as well. And that's the bug. You can crank these out pretty fast. It has a really cool profile. It looks like those little tiny clinger nymphs. You could substitute anything for the abdomen, change colors, and you can do this with the name brand or the real thing, Lively Legs. I'm sure those guys would appreciate it, but these nice little small nymphs crawl around under the rocks where I fish, and I hope this helps you out. If you want to learn more about me, look me up on Amazon, and until next time, be safe.